Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now it's kind of invisible. Some people were asking why even voting today. It's voting for Ann Arbor, Township, and Northfield, their schools, and so we let them use our hall or the fire department. So that's where the flag is at. So. Okay, the roll call tonight. We have everybody's present. Have the agenda before you. Any additions or deletions? Okay. Agenda is presented. So we're down to public comment. Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening, board. At the end of the last board meeting, Supervisor Whitaker, instead of speaking of issues important to our community, he attempted to belittle me after I left the meeting for comments and questions he did not agree with. What's equally concerning is Supervisor Whitaker waited until the end of the meeting and did not have the courage to criticize me to my face at the time of my initial comment. This speaks volumes to our supervisor. Supervisor Whitaker encourages everyone to watch meeting tapes and to reach out to him for the facts. The following are some facts provided by our board and Supervisor Whitaker based on meeting tapes and the messenger. At the February 13, 2018 board meeting, the board unanimously approved the Hamlet Streetscape project and also approved $500,000 of township money from our reserve fund to be used for this project. At the March 13, 2008 meeting, a resident asked if the board looked into a grant for the Hamlet Streetscape project. Supervisor Whitaker didn't know what to say. In fact, the entire board didn't have an answer to this direct question. In fact, a board member embarrassingly asked a resident in the audience who has some knowledge of grants what she knew. One trustee suggested they ask the planning consultants. Remember, this discussion came 1 month after the board had already approved $500,000 of our money to be spent on the Hamlet Streetscape project. Obviously, not one of the 7 board members, including Supervisor Whitaker, looked into whether a grant was available. At the April 10, 2018 board meeting, a resident asked why the board did not look into a grant before approving the $500,000 streetscape project to be paid for with township money. Now, after having a month to figure out what to say, our supervisor, who originally had little to say, suddenly had plenty to say. He now said, this is phase 1 of this project. We can ask for grants in the future. He also said he asked the planning consultant, and he said there are no grants available at this time. Never did he answer the direct question, why didn't the board look into a grant from the beginning? It seems the answer is obvious. Not one of our 7 board members, including Supervisor Whitaker, ever looked into a grant for the streetscape project prior to approving the project and the funding. Now Supervisor Whitaker, in a pathetic attempt to save face, tries desperately to talk around the issue. And make matters worse, this issue came up when the board has agreed to accept a $10 million grant that will subsidize the developer's project. Obviously, developers are treated differently than residents in Salem Township under Whitaker's watch. Just about wrapping up here. In the spring edition of the Salem Township Messenger, Supervisor Whitaker wrote about the $10 million infrastructure grant for the USD, and the total estimated cost of the project was $23 million. He goes on to say that the cost of this infrastructure will be the sole responsibility of the developers. This statement is at the very least misleading. Grants come from tax dollars. If Salem Township accepts this grant, they will be allowing public tax dollars to be used to subsidize the developer's responsibility. These are the real facts. As a resident, it's not easy to support or not support this grant due to the fact that this information has been so poorly represented by this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
I got some things I want to talk about.
Okay.
I want to talk about, Kalo again. The fact of the matter is he's not living up to the terms of the agreement. The number one thing is, the dust control. He said he was going to control the dust, and he's not. A couple weeks ago, I went to the PTO meeting over at Salem Elementary School to talk about, see what they thought of the dust and the noise and everything else that the school's putting up with because of how loud it is at my house, right across the street from the school. And the board was there, and there was only four or five parents there. The one parent made a comment that when her kid started coming to Salem Elementary School, it developed asthma. One said when the kid left, it went away. One of the officers of the PTO, which kind of shocked me, said, it's funny that you should come here and talk about this tonight. Because out of the blue today, or it wasn't today, out of the blue this past week, my son made a statement of, Mom, when I'm out on the playground, it feels like I have dust in my throat. They may pass these air things on a certain day here or there, but what's the cumulative effect of this dust on our community? I took these pictures here. This is after 3 hours. That's a side window of a car. That there is almost an inch of dust on that same car after 3 hours. What is it doing to us? What's it doing to pave and burn? Every time we cut our grass, it blows up again. It's just totally out of hand. It's your responsibility. There's an ordinance for that. It's a noise and dust ordinance. It's a nuisance. It's your responsibility as a board to enforce these ordinances. This is my daughter's a second grade student over here at Salem Elementary School. This is a test that I helped her study for this week. The test was today. Why do people form governments? Governments make, enforce, and interpret laws and ordinances. These laws keep us safe and make our community a better place to live. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Big idea, core democratic values, common good, making decisions on what's best for the community, the group, not one guy. Personal responsibilities, you're going to like this one, telling the truth.
There you go.
Brushing your teeth, picking up litter, volunteering. Exploring the public issues in a community. When people can't agree to solve a problem, it becomes an issue. We use common good to help solve these problems. Common good. Common good means good for all. People have a responsibility to others. People often give up some of their personal freedoms for the good of the larger group, which may be what Kalo needs to do. Whenever we do something kind and helpful to others, we are contributing to the common good. I like that. The other thing's the noise. 3:30, 4 o'clock Friday night. Bang, boom, bang. Do any of you guys live in the hamlet? Any of you?
That's why they don't.
You have no idea the impact that this is on this community. How would you like to be waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning to them frickin' tailgates banging? It's ridiculous. It's totally out of hand. That ordinance, that property is zoned industrial, yeah, but it says to protect the surrounding properties from incompatible uses. You got to do something about this, Gary. This is crazy. It is totally out of hand, and it affects the health. You think breathing that stuff right there is healthy? Like I said, you can pass a test on any day, but what is it going to do to us in a year, 2 years, 3 years?
Show them that picture up close.
You guys can pass it down. That's the side window, and the next one's the windshield. That's after 3 hours. That truck was clean when it pulled in there.
Thanks, Leonard. Okay, anyone else? Wayne?
The board has one primary responsibility, and it's to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. That's your primary focus right there. It's obvious that this administration puts more emphasis on developers and big business than it does on the residents of our community. How pathetic they are is they didn't even do their own independent air quality test. They didn't even pay the money to do that. What they're relying on is, they're relying on Kalo to hire their own air quality test to do it down. And there was one done at the school, and if I read it correctly, it was done indoors. And as this gentleman said, that's upwind of the actual activity most of the time. So that shows exactly how much this board cares
That
about
report
the
that you
residents
gave
of
me,
our
that
community.
report that you gave
Okay,
me,
hang on a second.
that report that you gave me, they couldn't put it over on the property across the street, that rock crusher. You wanna know why? Because it was too dusty for all the RVs sitting there. So it's too dusty for a bunch of inanimate objects, but it's not too dusty for us? I mean, come on. That was your own report that you gave me.
Okay, anybody else? Bob?
You can't buy the piece across the street because Hacker owns part of it.
That's beside the point.
That's not.
I'm talking about the report that he gave me, and that's
Okay,
what it
let's just
stated.
keep it directed to the board. Okay.
Also, I know people don't know this and they challenge me on it, but Dan's excavating going in and out next door across the track. I don't know what they're doing in there, but they also stirring up dust.
Well, something ought to be done about that too.
They might even be grinding. And they've been here a long, long time.
Do you think for a second that
Okay,
they would ignore
anybody
show
else?
stack like this?
Yeah.
Not for a second.
You know,
Okay.
them rock crushing operations, you always see them right at the freeway exits. We're not doing nothing with our Goffertson exit. Let him sit there. He gets right off, boom, he crushes it, he leaves. Doesn't affect anybody.
You're usually pretty chatty. What's going on tonight? Not much to say?
Public comment, Wayne, that's what it is.
Usually you answer back multiple times.
You want to stay for the
public
rest of the
comment.
meeting, I'll make some comments at the end.
Okay?
All right, sounds
Stay.
good.
All right,
Well, we praying.
go ahead. Linda.
Tonight you have on your agenda a fire truck bid, and having done some homework, understand that very few bids have been received. I reached out to some of my people in the county. You have bid a very specific chassis. You bid a very specific truck. And without getting into who developed the specs and who actually put the bid in, I think that this board owes the township to go out for a fair bid that allows any manufacturer to bid on the fire truck, not just people that build trucks on Spartan chassis. Thank you.
One last comment. Just for your knowledge, there's a provision in our ordinances that say, he'll tell you that that's a permitted use in an industrial district. There is no permitted use in our township that's detrimental to the health, safety, and
I
welfare
know, that's what I told him.
of the people of Salem Township.
That's, the terms of what it says in that ordinance, it's an incompatible use. Yeah, it's allowed, but it's incompatible because of the dust and the noise, so close to a residential.
Okay, Mr. Winsley?
All right, we've got the motion to approve the consent agenda. We have the minutes of March 13th, 2018, regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. We have disbursements out of the general fund of $111,385.59. That's checks 27,443 through 27,552. We have payroll of $56,178.99. Paycor of $205.39. Sewer fund $6,552.95. That's checks 2036 and 2037. Sewer expansion fund of $60,585. That's checks 1017. We have escrow fund of $1,211. Checks 17.
There's a meeting.
We know.
I can't hear myself talk here.
I can't hear you either.
We have escrow fund of $1,211, check 1751 through 1752. And we have the MEDC fund of $34,342.80, that's checks 1 through 6. We have total invoices, general fund of $130,359.63. The sewer fund, $13,673.25, and the last escrow fund of $1,077.50. Should we have a second on these?
I'll second it.
Thanks, John.
Okay, any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, down to business items. Mr. Conders.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that Salem Township approve the agreement with Washington County Road Commission to provide local dust control from the township as described in the attached documents for the amount of $39,659.40 with matching funds provided by the Washington County Road Commission, $19,829.70.
Have a second on this?
Support.
All right. Mr. Trent? Any discussion on this? This is our normal dust control and with the matching funds. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next on the item tonight is motion to approve the Salem Township road projects that we have seen. Well, first, let me make a motion to approve the following local road projects of Washington County Road Commission and to use their drainage matching funds of $10,493 and conventional local matching funds of $36,125 to approve road projects. Have a second on this?
I'll second.
Okay, so that's for the matching funds. So any other questions about the matching funds? These are, that's been available for the county. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Your question misled where I thought the discussion was going to go. The road projects that we have in front of us have our neighboring communities indicated their support for these projects.
Mr. Trent, I was getting into that. This is just approving these matching funds to the projects. Some of the projects, that's what I would like to go over next and maybe make some motions on these individual projects that are on there that, and I can talk about that. So we can put this in the whole motion. Let's just do that.
Well, that's
All right.
how we inferred the motion
All right.
was, because
All right.
it says
All
the
right.
following.
All right, let's do that then.
projects.
So, I know a lot of us have looked at some of these road projects, and I know Dale has too. Dale has driven some of the roads. The concern even for the last few years have been our joining neighbors to participate in these funds. As of right now, we have not heard back from them, and the road commission has not heard back from them. I talked to Marlene today with Northfield Township on, there's a bad, it's a bad problem that has to be addressed on Dicksboro Road between 5 and 6. There's also a culvert there, there's a lot of flooding there. The last big rainfalls have been, the roads is really almost completely shut down. There is a culvert that's going underneath there that's not sized properly. And then you'll see that in your packet, the Joy Road. Yeah, between 5 and 6 mile. Be a shared project. Our portion would be $59,500. And then I did get a call from Evan Pratt this week about it being possibly a county drain where they can also participate in. So it would be like a third from each, from the townships, the road commission, and also the drain commission. So we're waiting to hear back from them, but this is a project that really needs to be done on that area. And that's only between 5 and 6 now.
You said you chatted with supervisor.
Yes, they're addressing it at their board meeting tonight. So So there's that one. The other drainage problem we have at McFadden Street, just by the church along there, we noticed that that has flooded a few times. Wintertime, we had it backed up quite a bit. You see a lot of cattails in there, so that at $8,200 is something that's essentially, that needs to be taken care of.
There's a portion of that, there's standing water in. The rest of them, it out, it needs to be cleaned up.
What others, Dale, is there?
The other road that I kind of driving it when you're full of potholes, my test is you can't drive around the potholes, you got to drive through them. And when the potholes are a foot deep, about 3 foot in diameter, it swallows you out. And there's numerous sections on the Tower Road, or the Brookville Road between Tower and Curtis that fits the bill. There's about 3 different stretches in there that are just bad. I've got a call from one of the residents, and he is right there by that pothole, and he says the trucks go through there and it bang, bang, and you can feel it in the house. So I feel that that's one section of road that we should really address. There's just too many areas of it and too much that it needs to be drained. The worst enemy that we can have with any of these gravel roads is drainage. And that needs to be done. But that's one road that I have, my personal is, that's number one on the list.
Have you driven any roads, Dave, you want to talk about?
I wanted to find out about the commitment from Superior. Is that still up in the air?
That's still up in the air also. So we can either vote on these tonight, especially the ones that we keep bringing up, the Joy Road, roads to the township, and also Hicksboro. To make a motion, and depending on what their townships come out and vote, we'd be willing to match the funds to get that project done.
I think if we were just to approve our portion of it, so if they come in and they approve it, then it's a done deal. We don't have to wait for another meeting to kind of try to, because we're going to be missing the timeline if we do anything other than that.
Well, I totally concur with that, and if Superior doesn't want to come on board, maybe we could ask the road commission to put 3 inches down to at least make a partial improvement in the road structure on Joy. I know in the past they've expressed concern about doing that, but I think a little bit is better than nothing. In the past, Mr. Supervisor, we've discussed about trying to pave a portion of Chubb Road between 5 and 6 mile, the area specifically near the Kalo entrance. Is there any possibility that we could pursue that again this year? And do we have any pricing that the county?
So we do have a price of $100,000 to do that 800 feet from 6 mile to the first entrance, 800 feet on Chubb Road. So the issue on that is we have to determine if that's something that you want to do this year, which they can do that this year. But next year, meaning that once that gets, you get all the pricing in, to have that whole road done, that whole corridor 5 mile, and also Chubb Road done, then it would have to be ripped up. The $100,000 that you're talking about, with all the gravel and everything that's down there now, is just saturated and drained. So that doesn't include all that.
Well, if you want to deal with that issue as a separate motion, Mr. Supervisor, I'm comfortable with that. If you want to keep that as a separate issue, but I'm fully in support of us taking a proactive step to address a concern that's been very visible to us the last couple of years. It's unfortunate, perhaps in hindsight, that we didn't take the initiative and spend the funds when they were going 6 mile right around the corner, because they would have been mobilized and the price would have been less expensive. Nonetheless, based on the fact that we're planning on trying to pave that entire stretch of Chubb Road as well as 5 Mile. If we had done it a year or two ago, we still would have been investing monies in a project that would have been ripped up at some point anyway. You know, we pursued an engineering course to see if there was a better product out there that would have, at the end of the day, cost less. It looks like that investigation is not proving appropriate for that particular application. So I'd like us to consider perhaps in a separate motion investing $100,000 into that section of the Chubb Road. Keep it as a separate matter from the motion that's on the table.
Okay. Any other questions on the road projects? So what we have before us then is the McFadden Street Summit at $8,200. The Dixboro Road, 5 Mile between 6 Mile, $59,500. Splitting that with Northfield. And then Joy Road, Curtis to Govertson Road, $80,100. And then Joy Road, Govertson Road to Plymouth Road at $37,400.
Dale, did you want to do Dale's?
What about
Which one?
Brookfield Tower to,
Okay, Brookville Road, Tower Road to Pontiac Trail.
Tower to Curtis.
Just the
Wait
tower.
a minute, where's it?
Or no, wait. Oh, I got the
Oh, yeah.
wrong one. It's
Right here. Brookville Road, Tower to Curtis. That's the next stretch that you
Yes.
want to do. That's at $138,700.
no,
So right now, we're at 323,000.
in discussion, Gary and I have had this, and I've talked with Mike. The other thing that we have, there's a lot of areas on these roads that are patches that need attention. And I think what we should do is we should allocate a certain amount of money toward doing patch jobs for areas where there's major concerns, where you go back and do a spot repair, rather than doing the whole stretch.
So we were going to drive around this week to figure where they're
Yeah.
at.
But I don't know if we need to include that in this motion, but I think it's part of the discussion. We need, there's other areas other than here that needs attention, but it's not to spend, $120,000, $130,000 for a complete road when, we can get by with patch job. We did it 3 years ago.
Just so you're aware, we do have a budget of $500,000 for roads. We have $45,000 budget for dust control and $500,000 for roads. And we're at 323 right now.
That's with the Brookville? That's with Brookville and Tower? 323?
323.
So in the past, does anybody or anybody remember how much or limestone we've gotten before spread out to add? I don't even remember what the price was last year. So let's leave the limestone out, and then we come back
We can
next
always
month
come back
and figure out if we want to add something to that.
Because that's not something that we have to, long-term planning,
Right.
we can do that later.
Okay.
But I think that the areas need to be addressed before they grade.
Right.
Mr. Supervisor, just for clarification, the Brookfield Road project is just one section, not both of them?
It's just one
Just the
section.
one. But the spot repair, if we do spot repair, there's definitely spots on that other section that need it.
Okay. So the motion's before you. Do we have a second on these road projects? Yes.
You wanted to say something?
Yes. Somebody
Did you want to?
Yeah, no, if I'm not mistaken, last year, wasn't Brookville done from North Territorial all the way to Curtis,
The same. It was,
to Salem? And so from Salem to
no, it was.
Pontiac Trail needs, that's the part that hasn't been done yet.
We went
I
all
thought
the
it
way
was all the way
to
to Curtis.
Right, Helen?
We got a lot, bumpy road.
Yeah, so we did their road too, so that,
Yeah.
So there, so,
It's west of Pontiac Trail where the big problems are at.
well, I live on Brookville.
yeah.
And what I don't understand is you're gonna do 1 mile from Curtis to Tower. You're gonna have everybody there doing that, but the only thing that, to complete the whole road so it's done is the other mile from Tower to Pontiac Trail.
Right.
So,
Well, actually, the Dixboro, I mean, we need
there
to,
is no Dix Road.
I mean, not Dixboro.
It's-
I'm
If
talking
you wanna
about
go
the
to Dix Road,
Yeah.
it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But,
No,
no, so why don't you just finish the whole thing rather than, get this out here for this and then just leave this and then down the line just come and, like it's already been done on the section you're talking about, they come and dump gravel where that new house is built over and over and over again and then it's all gone. You're gonna, I mean, as long as everybody's there, why don't you
Yeah.
just finish it? So like, you have the money, I mean,
well, we're not done with this yet, so we gotta figure out, how much is that?
120.
That's 120. So what does that bring us up to?
Keeps it below.
It goes
The,
before
443.
All right. All right. Okay, we'll just add that one to it. All right, everybody fine? Yeah. All right, so
Gary?
we add that to it. There you go, John.
thank you.
Gary?
Thank you.
All right, we have all these streets before us. Yes.
Gary?
Yeah.
Under the business items, nothing was ever said about Curry.
I haven't got to that yet.
Oh, it's under that, so I just, whatever.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right, all those in favor of approving these roads, say aye.
They passed the
Any
roads.
opposed?
Then it snowed 2 days later and plowed it and everything, they put it on.
Mr. Supervisor, based on the discussion we had a few moments ago, I'd like to move that we allocate $100,000 for the paving of 800 feet of Chubb Road from 6 miles south.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
I think it's a good idea, but there's been problems for a long time. We don't know how long it's gonna take before we can get the road built.
That's what I was gonna ask, what's the estimated thought of when that thing would be constructed?
The project is slated, they say for sure, it's paid for next year.
So it really is putting 100,000 and then having it bricked up the next year.
I got a comment on that Chubb Road thing if I could.
Yep.
I mean, doing that may help with the dust somewhat, but the other issue with Caleb is the noise. I mean, they both need to be addressed. Well, addressing one without the other, I mean, what is not serving any purpose.
That ain't gonna help with the dust either.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We have a second. Any other comments?
Try to attempt to get any kind of help with aggregates from possibly Kalo for the base. If that's an intent, yeah, help out. Absorb a little bit of the cost.
Yeah.
Who started that?
I second that. Okay, Then all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Surprise.
All right. Moving on down to the Curry Road project. Most of you know, I think we mentioned at the last meeting that Curry Road, which is in badly needed repair, that the road commission came back and said that they would redo Curry Road between 6 and 7, and there were no funding for between 7 and 8 on Curry Road. So we went back, and I talked to one of the commissioners, and they went back to the road commission, and if you remember last year, we had told the road commission that we would finance the project with a payback from them. And they turned us down from that last year. So this year, here we are again. We said, listen, what can we do to help get this other mile paid so that the Curry Road project can be completed? So they came up with this plan that it's $220,000, and it'd be a 2-year payback of $110,000 each year, starting next year, and the $110,000 would be credited to roads that we improve on our local roads in the township next year. So that way, that project can be completed and get done this year, which would be a great problem getting taken care of. So that's the motion. I move that Salem Township approve the attached agreement between the Washtenaw County Road Commission and Salem Township, and confirms their commitments and understanding of Curry Road project with a cost estimate of $220,000. After legal counsel has reviewed this agreement, the board authorizes the supervisor to sound an imminent of the project. Do you have a second?
Second.
Trent, any other comments on this project?
Just that, being that we have already approved, we're up to 400, we're up to 500, and now we're going to be close to $700,000, so we will have to amend the budget.
Right.
Do they have a time that you just?
I'm supposed to be meeting with them tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be done this year. I'm looking for a time schedule.
Okay, so we could amend the budget maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm just saying, you know, the numbers you pulled up were
Right.
far exceeded.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, down to financials under South Line Reserve Officer. If you remember, folks, last month we had representatives from, Randy Clark was here, president of South Lyon Schools, and about safety at our schools and putting a reserve officer in. And so they were at, Lyon Township, of course, stepped to the plate and helping with some of that funding. This is for the next school year, and the request was $20,000 on the part of Salem Township. So we can make a motion to do that tonight, but I think before we do, Ed, do you have any more information about?
Well, I know that, and I think we talked at the last board meeting, Lyon Township has agreed to participate, South Lyon has agreed to participate. And the question was raised, you know, why can't we just participate like they do? Well, one of the issues is that South Lyon being a city, they have different statutes governing them. They're governed by the Home Rule Cities Act, and Lyon Township is a charter township. So because Salem Township is a general law township, we have to make sure that there's legal authority for what we do. Generally, townships can't do anything that's not permitted by the Constitution or by statute or case law. So with that in mind, I could not find any specific case law on point with regard to this type of situation, but there is a general statute in Michigan that allows a public entity to transfer responsibilities and functions that they would normally provide to the township to another public entity such as a school district. So I think within that authority, we can go ahead and approve providing the funds for the reserve officer. What we will need to do, though, is actually have a contract to say we are providing the funding for the reserve officer and for the purpose it's going to be used, as opposed to just issuing them a check.
Right. Who would that contract be with, Mr. Supervisor?
That would have to be between the township and the school district.
It wouldn't be with the reserve officer, or is it Oakland County, or is it?
Well, you could do that. I mean, if you want to do it with the county, providing it directly,
Would that make any difference?
Well, I think you want to, either way, you want to make sure that the funding is being used solely to provide the resource officer for the school, and not to use it for the other purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
Excuse me, hi, Laura Hewitt, Southline School Board, I'm the treasurer. Thank you for considering this evening. We can work offline, certainly, if this is passed this evening, to provide that contract as it meets your needs. We also have a job description that we'd be happy to share. And we can provide all transparency on the usage of that resource officer.
And I'm Margaret Fallow, I'm the Vice President of the Southline School Board, and we can answer more questions, but we also have is a resource officer as opposed to a reserved officer. It's a resource officer. And they have to keep daily logs and information on what they actually do when they're in our schools, so that it's a clear cut of where money is being spent and how it's being spent and the safety that we're providing for all our students in our district. So you can see those, and those are also discussed at our board meetings. So that we see, I think, twice a year, we request those reports. And they're quite detailed. They give a lot of information. So I think that the township would see where the money is spent and the appreciation that we have that you're helping us keep our students safe. And if there's any other questions, we're open. That's why we're here tonight.
So the only thing, and I had talked to Randy a little bit about it too, is that this is for the next school year, correct?
Correct.
And we've heard that South Lyon is participating. Have we heard?
I don't know if we have a, that's what we hear. That's
Oh,
what we
okay.
hear.
So
We know for sure Lyon Township has followed through
Green
with
Oak
that.
hasn't been contacted yet, we don't know anything on that.
Contact is being made and being requested.
All right, yeah. So, and I think, Board, if we do approve this, that, it's a one-time, we believe it's a one-time to participate in it, but then in the future, it's like, is the school district seeking funds from the state with this issue? Now, wasn't there somebody said there was an article today or something that maybe the state is?
There's lots of rumors, so obviously we don't like to see ourselves in the situation where we have to ask and even consider putting officers in our schools, but the fact of the matter is we do. And it's a pretty urgent need, as you're all seeing on the news throughout the country. It's undetermined at this point as to what kind of funding, if any funding, will come from the state or government entities. So right now what we're trying to do is get over the hump, make sure our kids are safe, make sure we're prioritizing this, and then of course moving forward we will do everything in our power to keep these resource officers in our schools within our own budget. But right now, given the current situation, our current budget, we can't do everything that we need to do to keep kids safe
Without assistance.
Okay.
So we would appreciate any support from this community.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to make this motion to move the Salem Township Board of Trustees approve the expenditure, $20,000 to be used by the South Lyon Community School Board for hiring of a local reserve officer at South Lyon High School. This is a one-time expenditure which the Southline Community School Board will fund permanently as part of their ongoing budget process. A second on this?
I'll second it.
Mr. Supervisor, if I could suggest an amendment that the motion be to approve entering into a contract with the Southline Community School Board.
Entering into a contract with the school board. Okay. Does anyone have a second?
Yes.
John Daniel. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed.
Thank you.
All right, moving down, Mr. Trent.
Mr. Supervisor, last month, representatives from the Salem South Line District Library made a presentation regarding the potential construction of a sidewalk or non-motorized pathway to connect the current non-motorized pathway that's on 8 Mile to their facility. And I am not making a motion tonight, but in the spirit of some discussion, I have tried to find some additional information regarding this proposal. Unfortunately, I ended up playing telephone tag the last couple of days with the district director, the library director, Donna Olson. So I was not able to get some feedback from her. I did chat with our planner, who advises me that the library has made a final site plan application that he is currently reviewing. It does include this pathway from 8 Mile to the northwest corner of the parking lot. And that the material that's specified in the application seems to indicate that it's concrete. That is actually a 5-foot wide sidewalk, not an asphalt pathway that we might have been told last month. And because maybe with the excitement of trying to utilize that current pathway that's on 8 Mile, trying to connect it to the edge of the library parking lot, as was expressed last month, that their board of trustees decided to move forward with trying to implement that sidewalk. And as such, they've now modified their site plan to include it. And the planner was going to touch base with the district library director to let them know that if they move forward in that manner, that they would be required, because they're showing it on their site plan as being built. And so I think he's going to suggest that, depending on the funding aspect of this project, that perhaps they might want to look at it as an option to be built at a future point in time when funding is available. So just share that as background information based on what I was able to discover in the last 2 business days, since my name was arbitrarily put on this piece of paper without my permission.
Okay, so they will, they're supposed to get back with you, talk to you some more about it, or?
I'm delighted to have that dialogue with the director and other appropriate personnel, whether it's from the library side or from our side of the house as far as a planning consultant. But one of the open issues, if you will, is there was an amount that was thrown out from their general contractor that said this would be approximately a $15,000 expense. Without making an assumption, since they're still in the planning site approval process, that no official bids have been acquired at this early stage. So until those folks know what the actual cost of the sidewalk is. I think Mr. Montagno had some minor issues or concerns that he wanted to review with the library regarding where the sidewalk is located, et cetera. So until those things are ironed out and whether they want to modify their site plan to show it as a potential option to build down the road at a future point, I think they should hold off on any official motion at this juncture.
We'll table that at this time. Postpone it next meeting. All right, thank you, David. Okay, moving on down to planning and zoning.
There's no motion.
Okay.
It's just a review.
You want to talk about it, or?
I don't have much about it.
Okay. So this is the Arbor Hills landfill, their temporary office building permit has been submitted. You guys in the new building, in your new temporary offices?
Yes, we are. It's working out very well.
All right, moving on down.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes.
since we have representatives from Arbor Hills here, since this is a temporary structure, what is the timetable for a permanent structure, and where exactly will that be located, if that's known at this time?
I don't think we know at this time, David. I think the permit calls for 1.5 years of temporary structure. There's a good chance we may go back to the zoning board and ask for an extension to this, because we did put quite a bit of money in this project to move this thing here, and utilities and everything. So I think it's, it's a good chance it might be there for a couple more years. And where the new structure is going to be, at one time we talked about being across the front entrance of Napier, there on the north side of the Napier. But right now that's, it was talked about, and that's about as much as was done. So right now we're sitting in our new temporary office and enjoying life, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Last motion I have to make is I move that Salem Township approve the following appointments to the Salem Township Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2018, ending December 31st, 2020. Mr. Keith Paul and Mr. James Swiggers. Second on this? Did you do it? Seconds? Any other questions? Appreciate these folks serving as always, and their support. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, moving on down to reports. Chief Rocco.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On the summary page there, you'll see we had 39 calls in the month of April. We had one structure fired from a fire ring that basically was sparked out of the ring and caught the house on fire. We did a good stop with keeping it from spreading to the entire house, but as we're getting into spring with people burning, we ask that they really pay attention to when they're burning. We also had a red flag day that was given by the county. Red flag days are extreme fire conditions, at which time you're not allowed to burn at that time. So watch the wind directions, pay attention, have some meetings to put the fire out. So it spreads really quickly, as a few of us will attest to. And a garden hose at the ready is probably a good thing to kind of say. We've also had a couple of car fires that just recently, so one the other day this weekend, so I don't know, hopefully it's not the season for fires. Speaking of which, we talked about it in the board packet, just wanted to make note to the board that we received bid and close for the fire engine. We put it out on BidNet, which went nationwide, and we received 2 bids. It's obviously really thick, and we'll be working through some time to review those to come back to the board to have some discussion. But it's too early in the process to begin the discussion. Just wanted to let the board know that we got it back. Any questions?
I got a question. And what is the reason why we asked for custom specifications on this truck versus a standard truck?
There's a number of reasons. The primary reason it's driving that is the length of our fire station. We cannot put a standard truck because of the shortness of our fire station. We literally have about 12 inches between the vehicles. So we have to be very specific, and if they give us too long of a truck, we won't be able to park it in the station. That's one of the primary reasons. The secondary reasons, I think you guys have been talking about it all tonight, is our roads. The roads beat the crap out of our apparatus. When you're driving those heavy trucks with water in them down our roads, and in fact, you combine that with, you look at the average life of our apparatus, it's 20+ years. So we look to build an apparatus with an expectation of maybe 20, maybe 30 years out of that apparatus. So we lived on paved roads. We never got off of dirt roads. We'll probably go to some of the lighter weight construction materials. But if we do that now, we're probably going to be back here a whole lot quicker than we are right now with the 20+ year apparatus that we have sitting in the base.
So you're basically saying a standard construction is lighter.
No, I'm saying there's options that if we had the availability, if we had paved roads, if we had a longer fire station, we could buy stuff that's off the shelf. We don't. Our fire station doesn't have that capability. Maybe if we, in the future, if we were to get a station and grow, eventually we're going to have to look at that as an issue, because if we try to, again, we don't have water, we don't have any hydrants, so every fire that we have here, we got to bring water. So we try to maximize, again, the capacity of our trucks. And the fact that we're kind of rural urban interface, so we get high-speed accidents to structure fires to brush fires. So we're kind of in a multi-department, if you will. We're at that urban interface of ruralness, and in some parts you get the freeway. So we look at the design of the fire engines or any of our trucks is all function-based. Everything that we put in there, we look for is a rationale why we need it or how we use this on the scene. Like light. Out here we don't have street lights, so we look at bringing capability on the lights. So there's a lot of rationale goes into the fire design of the trucks. There's a lot of, we beef it up because of the roads, and we beef it up in certain areas because we get a lot of high-speed motor accidents. And our structure fires, we're at the first response until we get our neighbors to help support us. That'll change maybe in 20 or 30 years. We get higher and higher paved roads.
What is the delta we're looking at?
So right now, from the two proposals, the delta is about $66,000. But it's too early in there to give the board kind of the full digest, because I want to work with the team that designed it, and as well as a few of the board members, and really go through the 166 pages to see, making sure we're doing apples to apples and making sure we get what we want. We may end up going back out and doing something else. It's the bottom line is the truck in here is rusting. It's 25, I think, 25 years old. So we can't play around too much. And the other problem we have, the economy is improving. So you're looking at about a year to build a fire truck. So even if we were to, whenever we turn the plug on whatever truck we do, we're looking at probably a year before you can see that.
They don't have any inventories on these trucks?
No. No, every one of them is custom built to some standard. Now, that being said, you can buy a demo model. You can go buy, like you can go to the dealership, you can see a demo model. But the challenge we have is we're not a standard size fire station.
How many feet of fire cells for trucks?
I just got back from one, yes.
You ever go to Elkhart, Indiana and look to the factory?
Yes. We went to the fire, FDIC in Indianapolis, Indiana. I think they had 34,000 firefighters there. They had every manufacturer. We always send a couple guys down there to look at what's new, what other departments are doing, what our neighbors are doing. We also have one here at Novi, which is really good. It's nice because I can send more of the firefighters. We get up in 9/8, and we get half a day, and they go there and walk and look for what people are doing, what trends, You know, one of the things that we've had problems with is fatalities, unfortunately, and people videotaping them. They go on down on the freeway. Unfortunately, we have you know, a number of fatalities, and they'll drive by with their cell phone like this, and the car's going down the freeway. And I've heard, rumored, that people are putting these on Facebook, and loved ones are finding out before the next of kin are notified. So now they got screening barriers to put it there to prevent people from videotaping it. It's sad.
How short is the fire station that won't accept the standard truck? How many feet are you missing there?
So I don't have that number off the top of my head. It's about, if we get 3 or 4 feet.
Then you could have a standard truck?
We probably could look at a standard truck.
And is there block construction out there?
Yes.
So we could head up?
That's an option we've talked about, I think, for a number of years, many boards and many places.
It's probably cheaper than custom. I buy equipment, you know that. I always go stand.
It's shown, what was this built in, 1963, I think? So back then, the trucks were different than they are today.
Oh, of course.
And today, you know, that's the other thing with new trucks, there's a lot of added costs with the particulate collection systems that you have in there, all the rollover, all the safety devices. Think of any car that you had 25 years ago compared to a car that you have today, and that's what we're comparing to. We have an engine that's 20, 25 years old, and you're trying to bring it up to today's standards.
Are you replacing bumpers?
So it is it's an engine, and it has the capability to do pumper. So we try to dual task it. We put a big enough pump in it so that it can act as a little bit of a tanker, 1,000 gallons. We have a big enough pump where a lot of you guys know you have long driveways or you have big houses, so the longer the hose stretches, the more pressure we need to get into the hoses. So we boosted up the pump because we've had long driveways and big houses that have small frontages in front and longs in the back. So to get the hoses back there and fight a fire effectively and run multiple lines, we boost the pump up a little bit.
Is there a Jeep tanker back there too, like Superior's got?
No, we would like to sometime entertain something like that. We are in brush fire season, but
Okay.
Thank you.
All done?
Yes, sir.
All right, any general board discussion updates?
One quick question, Mr. Supervisor, regarding our law enforcement report. Would it be possible for a deputy to come to next month's meeting or at least provide a written summary of the number of tickets that have been written enforcing our new truck ordinance that we adopted a few months back?
Okay.
And their assessment of how that might be impacting truck traffic within the hamlet?
All right, I'll request that. Thank you.
I saw him at work recently with a truck.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yeah.
Just a quick comment in regards to the concerns of the citizens with the dust control and such. I seriously think as many uses that are, we're getting more and more uses in the township, and we have no enforcement on the ordinance, whether it's complying or non-complying. Is there any way we can either hire somebody or put somebody out there to check on situations like this where it's impacting over and above complying, to make something change in favor of our citizens and the health? Or if it's not the dust, it's lights on a party store that are brighter than a landing strip, and those continue to stay on. So I think as this township gets bigger and more uses are happening, obviously people are somewhat out there to free for all, and they do as they please. And rather than a knock on the door and possibly being polite and ask them to tone it down or water the dust down for a day, if there's some way that we would legally enforce it to try to help out on the situation.
And to answer your question, what the office has done, our new planner has that capability of doing it. Problem is, I think we used to pay somebody big time here one time. and, you know, it just, there wasn't a lot being done. So, so part of Paul's job on Wednesday has been contacting, writing the letters, enforcement. That's been kind of what he's been doing. He's been doing that a lot of issues we have. So I probably in the last, I want to say 2 months, probably they sent out 3 to 4 letters and then follow up to make sure that they're doing it. And most of the time people do take care of what the complaints that come in that they're doing. Now, we have a problem, as we mentioned tonight, as the noise ordinance. We have a noise ordinance that really isn't enforceable. And that's been, so we've talked, Ed's been working on it, and it's something that the Planning Commission has talked about, and it's something that we have to put into place. And there is one that, Ed, you might want to share about that one that's kind of, the information you sent me after we started talking about the noise ordinance, one that doesn't actually have to go to the Planning Commission. It could be one that kind of talks about some of the comments that were made tonight that we can address.
Excuse me, a noise ordinance is what's called a regulatory ordinance as opposed to a zoning ordinance. So it doesn't have to go to the Planning Commission. It can come to this board and simply be approved by this board, and it will be effective upon approval of this board. So a noise ordinance is something that can be passed in fairly short order without having to, you know, go through all the process with the Planning Commission if this board so desires. So I can send Supervisor Whitaker a proposed ordinance today, noise ordinance, that the board can take a look at, and we can discuss it further next month.
What type of instruments are used to measure the noise so it's even across the board rather than subjective? Oh, it's too loud for me, but too soft for this person. I mean, there's got to be instruments for that.
Yeah, there are instruments that measure sound. There are different types of instruments. In fact, for other townships in Washington County that have similar noise ordinances, the Washington County Sheriff's Department actually has sound meters that they use to measure the decibel level of sound. So they can do that, and the ordinance has to state the point at which the sound is measured. It's usually at the property line or at some distance from the property line, but that's all spelled out in the ordinance.
Yeah, because I mean, we have many people who have farm equipment. My neighbor has farm equipment, and then he turns his diesel tractors on, and it's loud. But
they're exempt.
Yeah, they're exempt.
Are they exempt?
Yeah.
But
I think the real critical is back when all the issues with some companies in Chuck Road, and all of them make noise, is the timeline as far as when the noise happens or when they can actually be doing stuff. I mean, somebody driving a truck, you know, whatever, but if they're hauling stuff, dumping stuff, or whatever they're doing, that's, can that kind of ordinance be as far as, you know, I've been talking to other townships what they're doing with their industrial areas as far as time goes and how they enforce it, as far as even leaving a truck idle, because in some of these communities, they're right up against a truck running all night.
Right.
So there's only, they put certain guidelines on there, and then it's enforceable.
Yeah, actually, the state of Michigan has, under the state statutes, they have decibel levels for motor vehicles, whether they're standing or moving, and those are often incorporated into local township ordinances. And that's what I proposed for this township. So for the industrial area, noise is something that can be regulated. I mean, I know, for example, Cato Trucking has the ability to run trucking operations at certain hours, but if the township passes a noise ordinance, they still have to comply with that, those noise restrictions as far as the hours that they can operate. I mean, they can operate trucking after hours, you know, extended beyond the noise ordinance, as long as they can do it quietly, but they still have to be in compliance with the noise ordinance. And was mentioned about farm equipment. I think most of the townships in Washington County that have large farming communities have exempted farm equipment and farming operations from their noise ordinance.
still have, I guess my point still though is we can got many ordinances, we have ordinances in place. How do we enforce those ordinances more enforceable, I guess, if that makes sense? How can we make these people comply? And again, whether it's Kalo or somebody else, it's like they get the warning once and then it just continues on and on.
Start writing tickets like Plymouth Township.
Well, I mean, if that's what it takes.
Right, but that's usually the law enforcement.
I can comment on it.
Well, if you have a code enforcement officer at the township, and I know Paul's acting in that capacity, but they could actually issue tickets. The township already has a ordinance for violations bureau, but you can civil infractions through your ordinance violations bureau. And they're contested, and they would go to the district court. So you have to have somebody prosecute those. But it can be done. You've got some of the ordinances in place. And if you put a noise ordinance in place that's enforceable, you can issue, as we said, tickets or citations for municipal infractions for violations of that ordinance.
So I guess as a board, I think we should look at that closer, and if need be, it needs to take place.
Yeah, so next month, Ed, could we have something to the board or get something to the board so that we can have time to look at it and get it moving forward?
Certainly, yeah.
In our zoning ordinances, it specifically spells out who is responsible for enforcing that noise ordinance and exactly what the penalties are for each time that there's a violation. That progressively gets greater, up to $1,000 per violation. So somebody could sit down there with a clipboard, there's 1,000, there's 1,000, there's 1,000. That's our current that we already have on the books.
Right.
And it spells out explicitly who is responsible and how it's enforced.
Okay.
Just to add, this gentleman is right about, you get 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning about truck beds slamming. I know I hear them on the order. So it does wake you up, so yeah, maybe we can look at a time frame or something when they can start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, really, why would people sleep during the day too and take naps? Why do we even have to hear it at all? That's my point. I mean,
That was brought up once before.
I moved in here and it was peaceful and quiet. Now it's a nightmare during the day. Every time I walk outside, it just grinds me. And you guys won't do nothing about it. Now, I'd like you guys all to write on that thing your addresses, because I got a few backup people. I'll come in your house at 6 in the morning for the next week and see how you guys give you a taste of what it's like. It sucks.
John,
It's not funny. It's not funny anymore.
Would you like that?
Okay, so moving on down, any other general comments?
I'd like to mention both to the board as well as the public that I am presently looking for bids, suppliers to replace all the glass and the sliding door, putting in a sliding door on the south door, and replacing those doors and windows. They gotta go. As well as in addition to that, have plans to upgrade the bathrooms as well. So we're going to try to make this place a little bit more modern and make it more welcoming. And I still got another supplier that's coming in next week, but what my estimate was to get at least 3 different glazing suppliers. I talked with a sliding door guy, and I've got them kind of online, so things are moving.
Okay, anything else? All right, public comment.
The roads, Salem Road, Brookville,
Yeah.
Godfredson.
Did they grade yours today?
They did it yesterday.
Yesterday.
And they didn't come put anything down. And the pictures he just showed of his truck, my truck looked just like that this afternoon. And it's just, I've lived here 8 years. And I talked to you on the phone back a couple of months ago. And the comment you made, which kind of bugged me a little bit, was, well, you knew what it was when you bought the house. But I didn't. I bought it in February. And the road was perfect. It was snow covered, beautiful, serene setting. Now, it's just, you know, I listen to my wife every night when she comes home, just bitching for 10, 15 minutes about how effing bad these roads are. I mean, your daughter lives right on that corner, which is the worst spot in the whole thing. We spent, whatever, several $100,000 in the last couple of years to do something with these roads, and it's done nothing. They're worse now than when I moved in 8 years ago. And we spent probably, I don't know, you tell me, Dale, how much?
We spent a ton of money. Yeah.
We spent, what, $500,000 on Salem Road and another $500,000 on Govertson and Brookville, and we've gotten nothing. I mean, it's worse now than it's ever been. And, you know, they come through it, the dust today was just horrible. I mean, it's just, you know, it sucks because my house is very close to the road, so I can't open windows, I can't open my doors. I can't have a clean vehicle, my driveway gets covered. I mean, it's just, and then they come and they spray, but they spray the cheap stuff that you've said. Why don't we upgrade? How much more does it cost to spray the good, whatever it is, that they put down on the roads to keep the dust down? I mean, it's just, and you know what you're saying about the fire trucks. I mean, I can't believe these guys, how many times a day they come down the road, and those guys got to get somewhere fast. And I don't know how in the hell they do it, because I can't get from my house to Territorial fast as bad as these roads are. So it's just, I don't know, am I the only person that, you know, we have so much traffic on Salem Road and Brookville and Govertson that, you know, I don't know if there's other roads that have as much traffic as these roads, but it's just.
And the grading is, I guess there's a grader down. I mean, you know,
Well, they didn't even grade yesterday. They came through with a pickup truck, or a dump truck that they use for snow removal. Did a half-assed job. The potholes are right back, and then they didn't put anything down to keep the dust down. So how many times a year are they, or during the season, whatever, are they supposed to? Can we pay? I mean, is it that much more to pay to have it done? You know, maybe on a monthly basis, and use the better solution to.
We've asked that question. I've asked that question many times to the county. Quite frankly, it's resource driven.
What if we paid for it?
We have tried to even have like our own grader, you know, which
we've asked that question. We've asked ways of trying to get it. And there's liabilities that they say we cannot get our own grader. And number two, I said, well, what if we can get three, or instead of three, we can get 4 or 5? Ultimately, I'd like to see 5 of them. And they come back and said they do not have the resources to give to us.
Okay, yep.
Well, I just got a quick one about the library line and bike path. The bike path goes right up to their driveway right now. Well, why do they need one that goes up to the other side of their parking lot? It's kind of ludicrous to me. You know, I mean, that's kind of what I'm spending money. You need to take that $15,000 and put it toward that bypass.
That's right.
Okay.
I think it's for their new, by their new addition.
Yeah.
Library to the school. It's from the library to the school, so they can walk back and forth.
No.
School next door. Is there a school next door?
No, this is one road.
Linda, you know, you can.
Yeah, the library's not seeking to put the path in. The planning commission and the planner asked the library board to connect the current path to the library. So if you have an issue with that concept, you need to take it up with the township's planner. The library's trying to comply with what the planning commission has asked them to do, which is connect a path that goes all the way up 8 Mile. It goes through what's called Volunteer Park. It comes back onto 9 Mile, and it then goes through the city, eventually connects to the old railroad. And so there's a bike path that the people from South Lyon do use. They ride their bikes, and the planner asked through the planning commission that the library consider this. The library has it on their plans, but we do want it as an option because we don't have the $15,000 at this point to do it. Mr. Trent talked about whether It's out for bid. The project is out for bid at this time. And until we get numbers back, we don't know what specifically is going to be done and what has to be taken off. But this was not something that the library board dreamed up and said, by the way, this is how we want to spend the people's money. This was something that came through the township's planner. And at the last planning commission meeting, someone from the audience asked about government overreach. And the planning commission assured the audience that this was simply something that they wanted considered, that it was not a requirement to move forward. And the library board is happy to do a bypass. As Mr. Whitaker will tell you, we've tried to work for 3 years with the township to get a bypass, but the road commission won't provide a reasonable quote to do it. So your issue again shouldn't be with this board, it shouldn't be with the library board, it should be going out to the road commission meetings. The same thing with your dust control issue. They're their roads, they control them. They don't always work reasonable as much as the township board wants to work with them and the library board wants to work with them.
When do they have meetings?
That I don't know, you'd have to look online, go to Washtenaw County Road Commission, they have public
And the
meetings.
public's welcome?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they have a public comment time then also. And it's the same thing with this bypass, we have investigated it. I can provide emails, I'm sure, between myself and Mr. Whitaker, because I'm the board chair for the library, where we've tried to facilitate this, and it is a road commission, once again, that is a stumbling block.
Do you know anything about blacktop versus cement though, like he just said?
That I don't know about.
Okay.
There's another comment.
Yes, sir.
The house where you were gonna move the state police to, whatever happened to that project?
Well, we have money budgeted for it, so.
Well, I know one time you said you were looking for volunteers to help over there, but if you wait too long, the volunteers are gonna get too old to help.
That's a good one.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor. I just remind everybody, this coming Saturday, the landfill is supplying compost for our Salem compost days. So I gotta thank Kalo for transporting it down here for free. And we're supplying the compost free. So what a deal. What can you get free nowadays? Comes to compost days, and that's really good stuff. It's got a lot of nutrients in it. It'll make your flowers and whatever else you want to plant bloom.
Does it help when citizens call the Washtenaw?
Yeah, I mean, and then when they don't get an answer, they call us, and we try our best to get them. I mean, I thought today they actually had a grader out here doing some of the other roads, but the roads are a mess everywhere. But they're not spraying.
Now, is it, because I call them, and so does my wife.
Okay.
And is there a way in our like monthly newsletter that we could put the phone number?
Sure.
And have residents
I think it's in there,
contact
isn't it?
them? Because the
think
squeaky
there
wheel
is.
gets the grease, so if everybody is sick of these roads,
Yeah.
if they contact Washtenaw Road Commission, then maybe we can get something done.
I doubt it. Go out to the building on the road side.
Okay, anyone else?
What's the quantity for the compost? How much are you allowed to pick up? I can't remember.
You know, I kind of, I've seen people with pickups, you know,
You can't hear, I'm sorry.
so the compost, I know we try to.
We don't really supervise it. I help
We're
people.
supposed to too, and
I help load people to shovel their pots and stuff. There's some gentleman that comes to a tractor and scoops it up with the loader. I mean, he's a godsend. I mean, he keeps the traffic going, otherwise you'd have a heck of a mess out here on 6 Mile Road. So whoever that guy is does it for free. It's really a nice gesture on his part because it really keeps it moving. But there's no limit. I mean, there it is. It's there till it's all
well,
gone.
we get calls at the township about, you know, they want to bring in big trailers, like, you know, we tell them no.
Yeah, some people bring in some pretty large trailers, and, you know, it's like, I don't have any authority to tell them no, but, you know, I've seen quite a few.
I ain't never gotten none in my life.
Herman's always
Yeah, he's the police guy.
Yeah, he's the cop guy.
Yeah, he's a compost.
Herman will tell him no.
I think, what time, Bob, does it start?
I believe it starts at 8 o'clock,
All right.
8 a.m. till it's gone. Usually it's gone about noon or 11.
Anything else, Mark? Okay, I just have a few comments I want to say tonight. So, I see Mr. Walsey didn't stay, I asked him to, so. But, first of all, I want to, before I get into my comments, Flag Day, remember, is just right around the corner, June 2nd also, so make sure you plan to be here for that exciting day. We appreciate all the people volunteering for that. But anyway, some of the comments that were made tonight, and I personally, whether people like it or not, I apologize to the board. It's unfair to be attacked this way. Let me just explain something about public comment. And Mr. Walsey, that made comments tonight, should know of all people because he used to sit up here. So our public comment, we kind of say you get 3 minutes to talk. It's not a question and answer time. You can make comments, and we appreciate them, but again, you're addressing the board, and that's how the rules work. You know, as far as the grant, you know, this township, I think we get tired of talking about it. They had a master plan, I think, 30 years ago over in the USD what to do over there. People have, the plan is there, there's changes that have been made all along, you know, the Johnson controls. People that have been on previous boards have worked hard, but during that time, there has been a lot of legal issues, litigation issues, because of a lot of issues that boards in the past have done that have brought us in, and it's cost the township a ton of money. I'll never forget when I first took office, on that very day, on the 20th of November, sworn in, and Mr. Plato came over to me and said, the first thing you have to do is write the developer a check for $250,000 because, you know, and I'm like, because why? And it, you know, it's just of ongoing stuff that it's just even hard to explain why the township gets themselves in that position. Now, my comment tonight about the grant, the $10 million. Number one, last month, I was accused of getting this grant or having something to do with it. People know that's not true. I mean, I don't know of anybody in Lansing, and I wished I had enough influence that maybe I could go work for a big state. Hold on, this is my time, it's my comment. Anyway, I have nothing to do with the grant, and neither do these people up here. But the problem is, or the issue is that there's a grant for $10 million for the infrastructure over there. So the comments were made tonight that, so the township says no to that grant, we're not doing it, because why? Because we don't want any development over there? After the township has very plainly put out a master plan that says, look at builders, developers, why don't you come to Salem Township and build your industry or your homes or whatever you want with sewer, public sewer and water. Here you go. I mean, you know, here's what to do it. And if the township didn't want to do that, then I say to the township, why didn't you buy that property over there? Why don't you buy it so that there can't be any development? But we put it out there. This is what you can do with it. Anybody who wants a copy of the master plan, I believe it's on our website, you can look at it. It says exactly what that property is to be used for, and these developers went and gobbled it and bought it up. And, you know, I can't help it. It is. So if you say you don't want anything there now, and you don't get a $10 million grant from the state to put the infrastructure over there, and you tell them no, what do you think is going to happen? Seriously, I'm asking you as residents. You don't think the township's going to get...
The gentleman over here will be very busy.
Thank you. And this has been going on for years, okay? This is nothing new. This is nothing new from this board that sits up here. This is many previous boards in the past that have sat up here and have dealt with that situation over there. And all I'm saying is that this town better wake up and understand that that is important over there, that it gets done right, that it's not put on the shoulders of Salem Township. For us to say that we're taking, having this money and the developer's the one who went and got it. We've told them they have to figure out how to finance it. And that's what they're doing. Now, the other option is that for us to get involved, and then, you know, if they don't pay it back, or we don't have letters of credit, or we don't have the property as collateral, well, you know what? It can fall back, and then it goes onto your taxes. Look at the case in Sylvan Township. Look at the big tax bill that them people are getting because they fell into that, and the residents have to pay it back. We don't want that to happen to us. So, you know, it's, you know, and when we talk about grants about the hamlet, you know, Mr. Walsey sat up to my right up here for 4 years. If you remember this little park over here, where was the grant money when he put all the money into the bricking and redoing the park to change the name of the park and everything else? That came out of the coffers. We have one of our old supervisors, Mr. Ripperty, sitting here that went and got people to donate and have that park paid free and clear by you know, so it's, again, for 20 years, this town or more, TJ's on the Planning Commission. How many times have people come and said, get this little town fixed up, spruce it up a little bit? And then we have all this money in the bank, and then, you know, we hear this tonight. I think it's unfair. It's just for 20 years, you know. Yeah, I have a building over here I own, okay. I mean, that's no news, everybody knows that. But I think if you live in, and this is my opinion, I don't mean this to be the board's opinion, anybody else, but if you live in this town, in Salem Township, and you drive through this little town and see, you know, this is all of our town. Let's make it better. And I understand, we've had the issues with Kalo, we got issues with the industrial area. That was zoned back then, you know, years ago that way. And it's like, we gotta make it better. And we are working, I mean, I can't believe how long, you talk about a road project trying to figure out how to get done. It's like that road is, we need a paved road down there. It will help all the traffic through the area to go down Chubb and use 5 Mile Road to get. It's just, you know, it's something that has to be done. And again, Mr. Plato talked a little bit about the noise ordinance, and as far as testing, anybody hear this tonight, I challenge you to call the DEQ. You know, the crushing operation that goes down at Kalo's and also the other company that's across the tracks, the state licensed them to do it. The DEQ has been out here, I don't know how many times, to do testing on Kalo's property, and the results are there. I mean, all you have to do is call them and ask them. But anyway, you know, again, I understand we're all not always going to get along, but we really do have a great community, and again, we have to work together. And you know, like Reggie says tonight, he brings up, you know, if it means that we need to hire an ordinance officer, maybe that's what we need to do. But there's a lot of things that have to get fixed, and I think the first thing is, you know, the Planning Commission went through the Kalo operation. I don't know how many months that was. And if you look at the restrictions that were put on it, it has the hours of operation and everything, but it also talks about trucking after them operations, but it's kind of vague. And again, we had public hearings, we had people fill the hall here and voice their concerns and everything, and that's what the Planning Commission passed. And again, I think if we can do something to help the matters, I think this is a good step to do it. So, but anyway, that's my comments tonight. Anyway, I appreciate everybody for being here. Dan, you got something?
Yes, I think one critical aspect of that grant is that this board did all the due diligence and got the professional people's assistance to make sure that this Salem Township was not responsible for the water and sewers in that development, which is a big deal. And that encouraged the developer to go and get the grant because they wanted Salem to take on that responsibility. But this board had the smarts and did the due diligence to make sure that things were put in place, along with Mr. Plato, that that would not happen. And I think, you know, a couple things from the Planning Commission on the ordinance officer and everything, I think the thing about it is that it is subjective, Dale, to a certain extent, because you really don't want to go around policing everybody and telling everybody what to do. But if there's a problem, an ordinance officer could go out there and mediate that problem to be resolved. In not attacking somebody or whatever, if a person's just going to be, you know, given a problem and everything, there's going to be a ticket procedure put in place for that type of a thing.
But we have to make sure that it's enforceable.
Right.
You know, the hours of everything that has to be detailed so fine. That's what we gotta figure out. So I appreciate you getting to us what we can, so. All right, folks, thanks for being here tonight, and have a good night. Enjoy the warm weather.